Welcome to the #1 source for information, news, and opinion on your Columbus Blue Jackets. This is CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. You can also find the audio version on the CBJ Radio SoundCloud page, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
I'll tell you what, this series between the Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning is proving to be fun once again. Just like last year, except for the fact the Blue Jackets lost one time already in this series. But that loss took 5 overtimes to happen. Blue Jackets came out after that game after playing 6 hours of hockey on Tuesday, and I know the Tampa Bay Lightning played the same amount, but the Blue Jackets had just played a 5-game series with 2 of those games going into overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs prior to that. Far harder playoff-style hockey than the Tampa Bay Lightning had to endure in the round-robin tournament that they played before this series. The Blue Jackets with what a great performance last night. They beat the Lightning 3-1. They gave up the first goal of the game. They came back, scored 3 unanswered, and their defense and their goaltending shut them down. Very simple. Just like Herb Brooks said, and the same way that it was portrayed in the movie Miracle. Shut them down. What a game. What a game. Some surprises along the way. When it came to goal scorers, some surprises in the lineup last night, all of that. Let's break it down. This is CBJin30, by the way, presented by Telhio Credit Union. And Telhio Credit Union is a place where they have been putting their customers first. They put people over profits. They have done it since 1934. They don't mess around when it comes to that stuff. They value you as a customer. They value your money and what you're trying to do with your money and how you're trying to get the most out of it. Whether it's a checking account, savings account, whether it's a personal loan, whether it's a business loan, doesn't matter. They're still going to put you first and foremost. So the question is, why go with a regular bank when you have a credit union that will put you first? I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't see an answer. I mean, that's the answer in itself, right? They're going to put you first. Remember what Ricky Bobby said, if you're not first, you're last. So, Telhio Credit Union, find them online at telhio.org. Find all the answers to all of your questions right there on their website. Again, a 3-1 win for the Blue Jackets last night. They give up the first goal of the game. In the first period, Tampa comes out there all over the Blue Jackets. I guess I should just go ahead and say that this is the game recap. Let's make this the game recap. This whole show is a game recap. I've got Jean-Luc Grand-Pierre coming in just a moment here. But this whole show is a game recap. But the game recap is being brought to you by Stanley Steamer. Get back to clean. And the Blue Jackets, they weren't clean at the start of the game. They were sluggish a little bit to get going. And you would expect that after all the hockey they played recently. And Nikita Kucherov got the first goal of the game. It was a puck that Andre Palat shot toward the net. Jonas Korpisalo thought it was going to come out from behind the net to his left. It came out to his right. Kucherov was there to gather it in, banked it off the body of Korpisalo. It was 1-0. And it wasn't looking good. That's early in the first period, but it's not looking good because Tampa had the energy. They now had the goal. But the Blue Jackets were not going to be deterred. Blue Jackets took a penalty about midway through the first period, and this is when they're back on their heels. They're trailing in the game. Things are not looking great for them. And all of a sudden, what happens? They take a penalty. And not only did they take a penalty, it was the guy that took the penalty, Seth Jones. Now, your best player, one of your best penalty killers, is in the box. And you've got to find a way to kill it off. Well, they did find a way to kill it off. Very impressively, I might add. So they killed off the penalty, and then they had life. And then they turned that life into a goal. Pierre-Luc Dubois had an incredible feed to Ryan Murray. I mean, Murray's coming across the crease, and he's got a stick on the ice, and he's open, and his stick blade is angling toward the net, and Pierre-Luc Dubois hits him right there. Redirects it in, 1-1 game. And then the Blue Jackets get a power play, and they make the most of it. And again, it was Dubois that was right in the thick of things. Again, he gets a puck, and he parks to the right of the net on the goal line, throws it out into the circle to Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Bjorkstrand gets away one of those laser-like shots as he can, and he buries it. And Bjorkstrand makes it a 2-1 game. The Blue Jackets would never look back. They would just ride that out until the third period, and then one of the most unlikely sources scored a goal. Alexander Wennberg takes a pass in the neutral zone from Liam Foudy, goes in on the right wing side, actually plays it between his own legs, kicks it off the skate, puts it back on the stick, and he scores. While he's falling down, he scores. And it's a 3-1 game, and that was the insurance goal that the Blue Jackets needed, and they closed it out from there. Absolutely closed it out. Tampa pulled the goalie out of the last media timeout, so it was like 4 minutes left, and they got nothing. They got nothing. Blue Jackets win the game, 3-1, the final score. They played that game without Cam Atkinson. Speculated about that yesterday prior to the game, whether or not Atkinson was 100%. The answer is obviously no, he is not. He didn't play. Emil Bemstrom came back into the lineup, showed some flashes. Did Emil Bemstrom? Flashes. I'm going to talk with Jean-Luc about that. We'll get more into the Emil Bemstrom thing in just a few moments. And Devin Shore, because Nathan Gerby didn't play in this game, and I don't know what the status is on him, but he got rocked in the last game, in game 1, with a huge hit and left the bench for a while. So Nathan Gerby didn't play either. Devin Shore drew into the lineup. Didn't have a lot of minutes. Didn't matter. Blue Jackets just kept running balanced lines out there for the most part, and they got themselves a win. A very impressive win, and they now are in a series tie, 1 win apiece. So now it's a best of 5. And whoever wins 3 of the next 5 is moving on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But again, it was so impressive. And I thought the Blue Jackets had the Lightning's number. As soon as it was a 1-1 game and the Blue Jackets settled things down and got back into the style that they needed to play, there were some glimpses of the Tampa Bay Lightning team that we saw last year, which is good news for the Blue Jackets because they easily dismissed that team last year. I don't know how they're going to show up in game 3, and I'm talking about the Lightning. But if the Blue Jackets continue to play like that, they're going to make things very hard for Tampa the rest of the way. So now let me bring in the former Blue Jackets defenseman and analyst on Fox Sports Ohio. He does such a great job of breaking this down, so I want him to join me right now. Here is Jean-Luc Grand-Pierre. Well, Jean-Luc, just looking back on game 2 last night, at the beginning it was a sluggish start for the Blue Jackets. But by the end, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When it was 2-1, the way they were playing, I expected them to win that game. We joked about it going into overtime between the second and third periods in the lounge there, you and I. But the fact of the matter is, you felt like the Blue Jackets were in control. And as soon as Alexander Wennberg made it 3-1, they were firmly and undeniably in control of that game, wouldn't you say?
I would say, I absolutely agree with you. They were in control at 2-1. Even at 1-1, they were back in control of their game. Those first 10 minutes, though, I was a little scared. I'm not going to lie to you. It was pretty scary. Tampa was going full out. They were 8-0 on the shot clock. The Jackets didn't register a single shot on net. And then all of a sudden, Seth Jones takes that penalty. They kill it. And then there was a momentum switch in the game, and the Blue Jackets start playing their game. And again, like you said, once they were up 2-1, even at 1-1, they were playing their brand of hockey. It was a little more even affair, and I knew they were in control. And then at 3-1, it was pretty much let's wrap it up and go home. And what about that finish by Wennberg? Yeah.
Oh, that was unbelievable. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to start with that penalty kill because as a guy that played in the National Hockey League, explain to me how that works sometimes. How can you be playing, you know, you're scrambling, you're not in position maybe, the other team is all over you, they're getting their opportunities, when what seems to be one of the worst things that could happen to you in that situation happens, like you take a penalty and, oh, by the way, it's your best player that takes the penalty. How does that sometimes get a team out of a funk and get them on the straight and narrow once again?
It's almost you simplify your game. When you're killing penalties, you're not overthinking about it. You're just getting in the shot lane, blocking shots. And then for the Blue Jackets, you're facing a Tampa Bay Lightning team that is really, really good on the power play. So you almost expect the worst, and being down 2-0. Now all of a sudden you kill that penalty, you get energy on the bench. The offensive guys are seeing these, you know, the Boones and the Gavrikov and the Savards blocking shot with their heads or whatever they have to do. And that gives you a boost. And it's almost like a fight in old school hockey or a really good hit in today's game. That's what the penalty killing can do for a team as far as bringing energy to the bench. And that's what it took. Sometimes coach have to take the goaltender out. This time was just a penalty by one of your leader, Seth Jones. You have to kill a penalty without number 3. That's a big deal. And the fact that they came out of it alive, all of a sudden, they start playing offensive and they register their first shot right after that. So that's what it's weird to explain. You would think a power play would give your team energy. Well, in the Jackets case, you're better off with the PK.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, should I say it or not? Never mind. You said it for me. I appreciate that. All right. Speaking of offense or suspect offense at times, Alexander Wennberg, the big knock on this guy for years has been, where's the point production that he should be coming up with here? I mean, he was a first-round pick. He was 14th overall in his draft class. He's had a year of 60 points, but it seems like we're always waiting and waiting and waiting for Alexander Wennberg. But last night, there was a point where he took the puck. Liam Foudy gave him a great pass, by the way, in the neutral zone. He goes in, puts it between the legs, puts it inside the far post. I mean, listen, any goal at that point would have been great, but the fact that it was Alexander Wennberg and the way that he scored it, I think that actually provided extra juice for the Blue Jackets. Do you?
It definitely did. You like guys to contribute offensively. You always expect your big guns, the Dubois to score, or whoever else. Like now we can talk about Foudy. You can talk about Bjorkstrand, obviously, who's heating up as well. But to see Wennberg play, he started the game on the right side, and instead of playing center, he played on the wing early on, and I think that gave him maybe a little bit more freedom as far as defensive responsibility. You're a winger, yeah, you got to play a good defensive game, but it's not as as a center, especially the way when he plays, he's almost like a third defenseman, and maybe it freed his mind a little bit about the offensive game, but he was definitely more noticeable today. We know the offensive skills are there. We heard Pierre-Luc Dubois say he sees him use that move all the time in practice. Well, it's about time he uses it in the game because it paid off real quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. There's no question about that. And when I talked to John Tortorella for pregame yesterday, I mentioned Wennberg because he was the fourth-line centerman in Game 1. But as that game went into overtime 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, he got promoted. He got moved up in the lineup. And I said to Torts, I said, he obviously found a little bit of favor with you. And Torts said, yeah, he's coming on a little bit. But how many times has John Tortorella said that in the past 5 years? Just waiting for him to take that next step. Now, look, it's a baby step because if you're going to take the step, you're going to do it again next game. You're going to be an offensive threat in every game. But fact of the matter is, you said you're expecting the big guys to score. Alexander Wennberg should be one of the big guys. And even though he hasn't scored like a big guy, that's a huge lift for this team because no matter what people on the outside think, you know this because you're in the room just like I am all the time. The guys like him. They respect him. They want him to do well. He wants to do well. They know that, but they want him to do well. And I think whenever he does score a goal like that, I think it's more meaningful.
Yeah, I think it is because this is a guy that he doesn't take any shortcuts. And yes, the media, the fans are on him because, they're like, hey, we signed you as an offensive guy. Now, the guys in the room know what he does defensively. And I think he takes so much pride in the defensive aspect of the game that it's almost like he forgets about the offensive part of it. And he really wants to be a really good defensive forward. But hey, bring a little offense here and there is fun. Crack that smile, see that missing tooth. I like that because you don't get any recognition from, blocking shots and cutting passes. I like seeing it Wennberg score goals, and we want to see more of it. But I really think with Atkinson out of the lineup today, all of a sudden Wennberg didn't have a choice. He got elevated in the lineup, and he responded well. And that's what John Tortorella likes. He wants to see when I give you a chance and I need you, you got to step up to the plate, and that's what he did today. So hopefully, for the 10th time, it is the right step toward seeing a more regular offensive game from Wennberg. But at the end of the day, who cares? His teammates respect him. The team knows how much he means to this team, and he scored a big goal.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cam Atkinson's out of the game. It was not a shock. I mean, it's a surprise because he's played in every one of these playoff games, but it's been talked about what's wrong with him. There's a game the other night that goes 5 overtimes. There are 60-plus shots for the Blue Jackets, and he had 0. And that's not normal for a guy who's scored 30 goals and 40 goals in a year. For him to have 0, Jody Shelley talked about it after Game 1. He got that puck and couldn't separate from Victor Hedman, which he normally does. So there was kind of a red flag that there's a problem there, and I'm guessing health-wise with Cam Atkinson. And when I talked to John Tortorella again, there's another guy. When I asked him about Cam Atkinson and what do you need more of out of him for the pregame before Game 2, he didn't get on Cam Atkinson and bury him, which he will do at times if he feels a guy is just underperforming or not trying hard enough. He said, I'm not going to bang on a guy that's really trying right now. So again, there were indications that all was not right with Cam Atkinson. And then, so him not being in the lineup was not really a surprise to me, but it was a surprise to a lot of people, I think. And to have the other guys step up like they did, ultimately important, because even though Cam's down in goals this year, he's still, you talked about Wennberg with the defense. Same with Cam. He's a very good defensive-minded player. He's a very good penalty killer. And he's a guy that if he gets in on a breakaway, he's got great hands, and he's scored a lot of goals that way. So not to have him there, other people did have to step it up, and they did do that in game 2.
Yeah, they did. For Cam, it's unfortunate they couldn't be in the lineup tonight. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But yeah, like you said, you'll see John Torella get on some guys, and some other guys he's not going to get on them. There's usually an underlying reason for it. So you must know that there's something, Cam's not feeling 100% or something like that. Because he's not afraid to call out his veterans. We saw it in the past. But for me, I think Wennberg stepping up. Bemstrom played some good minutes. I think Emil Bemstrom, we've been hard on him. We want to see more from him. I think he played maybe 7 minutes today, but we saw it. And I like when, you have limited minutes, but I can still see your contribution to the team. We saw Bemstrom battle for a puck. He made a couple nice plays. That's what you want to see from these guys, because you may only get 5, 6, 7 shifts, but those 5, 6, 7 shifts can be crucial in winning or losing games. So as long as the young guys being called up, the play minutes can kill minutes and stay at an even or plus rating, it's always a good thing as a coach.
Emil Bemstrom, I feel sorry for him at times because he came in here with such high expectations. You lose a guy like Artemi Panarin, and you're saying, hey, we've got this kid. He played over in Sweden. He did a really good job. He did some fantastic things. Not very many other players put up the numbers that he did, and some of the ones that did were great NHL players. I just feel like, and it takes me a minute to step back and realize this and actually think it out. Let me just tell you that. But he gets put into a situation where they've given him a lot of ice time this year. He hasn't produced the way that they thought that he would. He hasn't produced the way that he thought he would, I'm sure. And I just don't think he's quite ready for the National Hockey League yet. And it's a shame because, it's so easy to get on him. You're right. I mean, I've been hard on him this year. A lot of people have been hard on him. But the fact of the matter is, if you drop back to the reality of it, he's being asked to do a lot at a young age, and he's probably another year or 2 years away. It wouldn't shock me in the least, and tell me what you think about this. If 2 or 3 years from now, if all of a sudden this guy is a really good player and he's getting a lot of power play goals with that one-time shot that he has, I'm not going to be surprised. He's just not there yet.
I agree with you. Think of how many 20-year-old can come into this league and be impact players right away. Very, very few. We talk about the Connor McDavids, the Sidney Crosbys, but typically a 20-year-old, you want to bring him in fairly slowly into your lineup, whether it's for the American Hockey League or an extra year playing in Europe or junior, whatever it is. For Bemstrom, it was a little bit unfair, to talk about all his accomplishment over in Europe and thinking that he's going to come here and light up, every goalie in the NHL. Not fair. There's a lot of adjustment. We know Tort's system is something that Emil Bemstrom probably never heard of or saw over in Europe. So that's a big adjustment.
It probably hates. There's probably part of him that hates it, right? Part of him's going, please, can I just get free and skate down the ice and shoot? Why do I have to check this guy?
Exactly. And for Bemstrom, he's a guy that, he's been used to be on the wing, waiting for one-timers. Everybody sets him up. Now, all of a sudden, you have to chase. You got to get cross-check. And then, wait, you're asking me to block shots? Are you crazy? I don't do that. I'm a goal scorer. So it's a lot of adjustments, especially for a young guy. So, yes, I think it was a situation where there's a lot of forwards that left the Blue Jackets last summer. And this year, they're like, hey, we got the guns. We got this guy coming from Europe. He's a goal scorer. And then they gave him a chance. And now, all of a sudden, out of necessity, you're giving him more ice time than he really deserves. And you're putting him in a situation that you probably shouldn't put him in as a first-year player. So it is unfair. But guess what? Like Torts likes to say, you're a pro, do your job.
Right. Very good. Now let's turn the tables on that and talk about a 20-year-old that's making an impact, and that's Liam Foudy. Now, the difference between the two is you've got one guy who's a European guy that's coming over from Europe and playing the NHL game for the first time. And in Foudy's case, you have a Canadian kid who's played in junior hockey, who's played in the Ontario Hockey League. And, oh, by the way, he's played for the London Knights. Dale Hunter is a former NHL player, former NHL coach, and Dale Hunter has similar views to the game as John Tortorella. So now that adjustment maybe is a little bit easier for Liam Foudy, and that's not to take away from his talent, because this guy sees the ice extremely well, and he's making a name for himself in these playoffs, isn't he?
He really is. Everybody talked about his speed. Boy, is he quick. But he's a heck of a hockey player as well. And that's something I didn't know about Liam Foudy, because honestly, I've never saw him play until this year when he came to Buffalo. And he never had a chance in training camp. And I heard that Torts talked about it on your podcast, I'm pretty sure. They felt like he was a little too cocky maybe early on, so they never really gave him like a real look. But I think he went back down to London, worked with Dale Hunter, and probably like get back to earth and say, hey, if you want to be a good pro, this is what you need to do. And that's part of the process for a player to grow. You get drafted, you think you're ready for the big time. Wait a second, slow things down. And Liam Foudy, I think, being hurt in training camp this year was probably the biggest blessing for his career, because he got to go play a whole year of junior hockey under Dale Hunter, got to win, got to play with the Canadian national team in the junior tournament. All these experiences they're so valuable for a young player, and being brought up to Columbus for 2 games opened some eyes. And then now there he is in his hometown playing in the bubble, eliminate Toronto with that goal, and now playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning. What a dream.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you just mentioned these experiences and growth and all the stuff that we're talking about right now. And you and I were having a conversation. Actually, it was part of a conversation you were having, just talking to people about going to the minor leagues and playing, the experiences of going to the American Hockey League and going through all of that. And you know what? If Liam Foudy has things go his way, he never has to experience that, quite honestly, because if he keeps going like he is, he makes his team out of training camp next year, whenever next year begins, and he's here. Emil Bemstrom, he didn't have to go to Cleveland and play. That's great. There's a plus side to that, but there's also a minus side to that. And in today's game, guys are put right into the NHL if they're good enough, and I get it, I understand. But for those that experience the American Hockey League, even for a little bit, there's some great lessons to be learned there, aren't there?
There's some great lessons from first one, I think, is really enjoying the NHL as much as you should once you get there. Because, going from juniors to the NHL, it's like, hey, I've made it. Here's the dream. Going through the minors, those big, long road trips, sitting in the back of the bus, sleeping on the floor on a 10-hour trip, bringing your own bag into the rink, and then now you get that called up and you're like, wait, I really want to stick here. But when you don't know the minors, it's kind of like, hey, after junior, there's the NHL, and there I am. And, you're enjoying. You don't realize how lucky you are to be one of the very few athletes in this whole planet to be playing in the best league in the world. But the other thing is the growth that happens in the American League, playing 3 games in 3 nights, right? We're talking about the Jackets now, going back to back to back, and it feels like they played 6 games in 7 days. Corpy's used to that. He played in Cleveland. It's like, no big deal. I remember going 3 games in 4 nights or 3 games in 3 nights. That's part of the growth for the young players that, fortunately for teams, if the guy's talented enough, you keep him up. But playing in the minors and being surrounded by veterans. And the good news is there's good veterans and there's bad veterans too. So you learn from, hey, why is this guy in the minors and he's so old? Well, that's why he doesn't prepare the right way. And then you see guys get called up. They may not be the leading goal scorer, but they're doing the right thing. They're eating the right stuff. They're listening to the coach. And that's why they're going to the NHL. And I think for me, Nathan Gerbe is probably the biggest eye-opener. If you look at all these guys in Cleveland right now, and they're like sitting there and they're like, why did Gerbe get called up? Well, watch him. He's small. He's older. He went through injuries, hip surgeries, and now he's in the NHL. How'd that happen? Because he does all the right things. And I think that's the biggest lesson for these young guys.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Korpisalo, because that's where I was going with this next. He did come through the American Hockey League. He has paid his dues. And as I've talked about before in the last few days, this is a guy that, remember 2 years ago when they could still option him down? He was backing up Sergei Bobrovsky. He was playing like once or twice a month. And the other 2 weeks, they were sending him down to try to get him a game. If Cleveland was playing on a Tuesday or Wednesday and the Blue Jackets were off, he was in a car going to Cleveland, play the game, and come back again. If we were on a road trip and he wasn't going to play, or maybe we played Friday, Saturday, or if there was a day in between, maybe a Friday, Sunday, he might fly into Cleveland and play a Saturday game and then come back again. Elvis Merzlikins did that. Don't forget, this is going to be a trivia question someday. Where did Elvis get his first North American professional win? The answer is in Charlotte, North Carolina, playing for the Cleveland Monsters. That'll be forgotten because he did so well when he finally came back up here and got a chance to start every day, but it'll still be the answer to the question, by the way. But, you know, Korpisalo, again, he experienced all of that. But what I'm really impressed about with him, Jean-Luc, is this is a guy, and I tried to get something out of Torts on this the other day, and he didn't really bite on it. And I know it's because it's the playoffs. But I just wanted his opinion on this. This guy had to be benched this year because he couldn't control his temper. He smashed a stick over the crossbar. He got told about it, and then he did it again. Remember, Elvis was actually in Cleveland, was supposed to play 2 games for the Monsters, and then Korpisalo smashed his stick for the second time after he had been warned, and John Tortorella, like a good parent, told him he's not playing in Montreal. And Elvis Merzlikins got called from Cleveland to come into Montreal and play against the Canadiens. That was the last time Jonas Korpisalo smashed a stick. But how far has this guy come in just a couple of months? Because right now, he looks like he is the most calm person on the planet, especially the way he's played the last 2 games.
Yeah, it is kind of incredible. But again, that's part of the lessons. And hey, it doesn't matter how old your kids are; they're still learning every day. And I think the way that John Tortorella handled Corpy this year, yes, it was maybe it was painful, and people were like, "Dude, you're being too hard on him." Even players in the locker room, maybe. But look where it got him now. This is the most calm Korpisalo version I've ever seen. And we still know he's a competitor, clearly. And tonight, he was battling. Early in the game, Bobby, if you look at him, I know you know about goalies because of Matthew, your son, was a goalie. You could see that Tampa was pressing on Corpy because he just faced 88 shots. They're like, we need to push. Rebounds were a little bit all over the place. Got lucky a couple of times with, Zach Werenski saving one that kind of squeaked between his arm and his chest protector. But that is normal. But he battled through it, and as the game progressed, he got better and better, and then all of a sudden it was back to old Corpy. But these are all lessons that his time in the American League definitely brought upon him. It's easier said than done, but the values and the Torts came from there. Torts coach in the East Coast Hockey League, the American Hockey League, and then the NHL, which, by the way, I missed Torts by 1 year in Rochester. He would have coached me my first year pro if he didn't move. So it just shows you how Torts went through it. He knows this is the right way to bring up a player. I get it. Sometimes there's the super talent that get right to the league, but Corpy is from that mold, the old school mentality, and Torts really respects that as well.
Yeah, he has been so fun to watch play, and we love both goalies. We really do. They're both good guys. They're both good goalies. Corpy's been here a little bit longer. I'm a little bit partial to him. I just because he's such a good person. With goalies, you played with plenty of goalies. I don't know how many of them were really part of the team because usually those two guys, they have their own thing. They're like weird, right? The goalies are always weird, and they interact with each other, but Jonas Korpisalo is the kind of guy I've always seen interacting with everybody else on the team, whether it's the 2-touch soccer games before the game start or whether it's just hanging out on the road. He's just a likable guy. I just see where the other players play hard for him.
Yeah, I see it. And like you said, goaltenders, they're it's funny. These guys are in a bubble, but typically the goalie's in his own bubble. So it's a double bubble. But like, I remember Dominic Hasek. He was probably one of the greatest goaltender, great teammate, but man, this guy, he was in his own world, and you could not talk to him on certain game days. It was just a weird thing. And then you have Marty Baron. That was the complete opposite. It was like, Marty, you need to shut up, because he was all up in our business all the time, whether it was playing or not. But yeah, Korpisalo, he has the respect of his teammates. The guys love playing in front of him. You can see it. They like playing in front of both guys, but they don't know Elvis as much. You know, they've heard about Elvis like everybody else has, but they're still learning a little bit more about him. And that may have been part of the trouble early on for Elvis, just to really feel like he's part of the team, because this team is pretty close. We hear Nick Foligno talk about it all the time. This is a very close core group. They don't want to get hurt by people wanting to leave anymore. They want to make sure that you fit in and we got to take care of you. And that may have taken a little longer for this team to really rally around Elvis.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Really good point. And unfortunately, Elvis is out of the mix right now. As a matter of fact, Vanni Vevalainen came into the bubble for the Blue Jackets. So, again, there's no injury news being released from the bubble. But when they're bringing another guy in, it's very obvious that it must be a somewhat serious situation with Elvis, because they want to have a third guy there just in case, which is it's really unfortunate, quite frankly. It's not the situation that you want to be in. But I want to ask you about this, because Jody brought this up after the game the other night. So Korpisalo makes 85, 86 saves, whatever the final number is there. But there were like 168, 170 shot attempts overall. A goaltender is reacting to each and every one of those, right? I mean, you're starting to move. If the shot gets blocked, you can't sit there and think, well, he's going to block it. You have to be reacting to it in case it comes through so that you can make the save. So he didn't just make those 85 saves. He's reacting to every single one of those movements that was made. And that's why I was not surprised at the beginning when he was under siege, as you said, and they were really putting it on him. I wasn't surprised that he was a little bit sloppy early on, but I was really impressed with the way that he got it back together, because I'm sure, as tired as everybody is, and I know Seth skated 65 minutes the other night and Zach skated 61 and all that stuff, this guy was out there the entire time moving everywhere.
I get it. So I'm a recreational goaltender, and when the puck is in my zone,
You're a recovering defenseman that's now recreational goaltender, right?
Recreational, yeah, that's right. And one thing I never realized is shots on net. It doesn't matter. It's about zone. It's about zone time. When the puck is in your zone, the goaltender all of a sudden is in his position. He's on his toes the whole time, moving side to side. So if the puck is around your neck, or down below the crease, or at the point for that matter, you're on your toes for, let's say, that 3-minute shift. You didn't get a single shot, but you're still really tired. Corpy, it was 188 shot attempt. 88 went through, 62 blocks, and 38 missed wide. So you think about the body of work to be ready for 188 shots, plus all the passes, cross ice. It's incredible. Honestly, I think if Elvis was healthy, there is no way they're starting with Corpy tonight. They would have used their 1-2 tandem to their advantage, and you have a fresh goaltender in net tonight. Last night in Game 2 versus Vasilevsky, because that body of work is incredible. He played 2.5 games, and then now all of a sudden he probably lost 15, 20 pounds just in sweat, because their equipment is heavy. It's really warm. When you're wearing that goalie equipment, you don't even need to move and you're sweating. So imagine how much sweat and how much weight he just lost in that one game. So in my opinion, Elvis was healthy. He would be starting Game 2, and then it would have been a different game. But for some reason, Corpy stopped everything that he faced beside one shot last night, and that's quite the credit to him.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And I hope that we're not talking here in a couple of days or a week and saying how all of that ice time early in the series came back later in the series, which is very possible. Let's be honest. But let's move to Game 3 right now, and let's do the torch thing, one game at a time. Which, by the way, he's masterful at this, isn't he? That he has this team actually bought into the fact that it's not yesterday, it's not tomorrow, it's today. And how valuable is that mindset in the playoffs?
It is valuable because what Torts has brought to this organization is you raise the level of expectation. And we talked yesterday after the game, somebody asked him about Bjorky coming along, and he said, Bjorky's okay. And, Bjorky's been playing well, in my opinion, over the last 2 games, but he knows Bjorky has more to bring. And in the locker room, now that our studio is down there, it says, good is the enemy of great. And that is something that he really believes, and he makes sure everyone really believes in it. Yeah, he was good, but you know what? It's the enemy of great. You still have more. He's going to push you. And that's what he's been doing with Dubois. He doesn't want him to feel comfortable. Hey, I'm playing well. He's going to push, push, push. He knows the guy's limits. So if he's pushing you, it's almost a good thing because he knows you have more potential. And the other thing is the team being tired. He doesn't care if you're tired. The other team is just as tired as you were. They played the same game. They won. You go back to game 2. He said, that's what pros do. They get up and they go to work. That's the expectation. There's no more excuses. That's the expectation. And that's why he's so successful. And yes, it sounds so much more simple when he talks about it than when I do. But to me, I think he's a master psychologist. He might have gone into sports psychology secretly behind the scene, because the way he's running these guys, that's why he's going to win the Coach of the Year, in my opinion, because what he's been able to do with this group of guys. And I'm not being mean or, saying the team is not good, but let's not kid ourselves. You look at the Blue Jacket lineup versus all these other teams, in the top that qualified, and you take the injuries on top of it and what they had to go through, goaltending, defensemen, forwards, lack of scoring, and to be in that position, it's quite impressive.
Really, really impressive. You're right. And I voted for him. There to me, there's nobody else in the league. And even the two guys that are the finalists with him, Bruce Cassidy, he had the best team in the league. They won the President's Trophy. I mean, I was going to say, how hard is it to coach the best team in the league? Sometimes it can be because of the personalities. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of a pass. Alain Vigneault, look, no offense, but Philly's a really talented team. They just didn't figure out their goalie situation until, basically the end of last year. Now they've got that figured out. I'm not trying to take anything away from both those guys. They're good coaches. But the fact of the matter is they didn't have to deal with what John Tortorella had to deal with this year. They didn't have their American League lineup as their NHL lineup for long stretches, which this team did. So I totally agree with you. But let's talk about Game 3. Where are you if you're the Tampa Bay Lightning right now? Because I thought at the end of Game 1, after 6 hours, they looked exuberant. They looked relieved. I felt that they felt like, oh, my God, we finally beat these guys. We're so sick and tired of hearing about losing to the Columbus Blue Jackets. It took forever and a day, but we finally beat them. And now after Game 2, they've got to be back to scratching their heads, don't they?
I think they are. One of the things that we've been hearing over and over from Torts and the players is that, hey, last year was last year. This is a different year. I feel like the Tampa Bay Lightning is a different team this year. I think they've grown a lot. They've learned from last year, just like the Jackets have learned from each playoff series over the last 4 years. I think Tampa has grown. They brought some veteran presence in their lineup. Older guys, the Bogosian, the Shattenkirk, all these guys are in the lineup now. I think it's going to give them a different perspective on things as they're facing adversity. But when they came in flying last night in Game 2, I was impressed with the way they jumped on. And then all of a sudden, when the Jackets start taking control of the game, you kind of saw the old Tampa Bay Lightning sneak in. Tex was under Kucherov's skin. Kucherov was trying to punch, Foligno. Texier tried to take a Z out with his hip. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, guess what? It's the same game plan, but they just came around the corner and approached it a different way. But I'm telling you right now, the way the Jackets are playing, they're frustrating Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay is showing it as much as last year, but I think they're slowly getting there.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially in that game. So, and they said, some of their players said afterwards that they got out of their system. They got impatient, and they did. And the Blue Jackets took full advantage of it. You mentioned Zach Bogosian. Can I just ask you this question? How does a guy go from Buffalo, where he asked to be traded and they didn't or couldn't trade him, to where they rip up his contract? They release him. He's gone. They just take him off the roster, and the next thing you know, he's playing on the top pair for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup playoffs. How's that happen?
Listen, I got no disrespect for Buffalo, but talk about going from the doghouse to the penthouse right here, right? So you go from the worst team in the league that's not even invited to the bubble to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then you go from Buffalo's weather to South Florida. Like, what? And then now you're on the first pair. Yeah, Bogosian, I've been impressed with the amount of ice time, and now he's been handling it. He's an old school kind of defenseman. He definitely brings that grit to the Tampa Bay's blue line, which they definitely need. So, yeah, I don't know how that happened, but whoever his agent, he's a genius.
And he was
Watch
an upstate. He's an upstate New York guy. He's from up near the Canadian border there. So yeah, maybe just the trade for the sunshine. Like he had played in Atlanta when the Thrashers were there, but yeah, he probably didn't enjoy that very much either. Now that I think about it.
Nope. Been there, done that. Yeah, not a good spot.
Jean-Luc, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hey, get a little bit of rest because Game 3 is not until 7:30 in the evening. That's going to be different for us.
Yes, that's going to be different, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you very much. Great job in breaking it down, and see you for Game 3.
All right, Bobby. See ya.
Great job by Jean-Luc Grand-Pierre. Of course, you can see him in Game 3 and Game 4 and Game 5, and then if we have to go beyond that, you'll see him on Fox Sports Ohio. He's doing the pregame and the postgame and the intermission reports and did a great job of breaking this down today. Game 3 is tomorrow, and lo and behold, as I just said with Jean-Luc, it's not going to be a day game. It's not a 3 o'clock game. It's actually a 7:30 game. It's like normal time. Is that good or bad? Can't tell you till tomorrow. But it's a 7:30 face-off in Game 3, and that means our pregame coverage on the Blue Jackets radio network will begin at 6:30 tomorrow night. So make your plans. Take your Saturday and do whatever you want all day up until 6:30. Then you got to be tuned in. Puck will drop at 7:30. Of course, where can you get the game? I'll tell you right now. Flagship station of the Blue Jackets radio network, 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. You can get it on your phone. You use the Blue Jackets app or the TuneIn app. You can get it on your computer at bluejackets.com. And the Blue Jackets are now the home team for the next 2 games. And that means we will be on NHL radio on SiriusXM satellite channel 91. I had somebody sent me a text, a buddy of mine sent me a text yesterday. And he goes, he's my former equipment guy actually in Syracuse. And he was out and he was driving around and he said, why can't I get your broadcast on SiriusXM? Why? I don't want to listen to the Lightning broadcast. I said, wait until Game 3. I can help you out in Games 3 and 4. Other than that, I can't help you out. I understand why you want it. Why wouldn't you want it? But you got to wait till Games 3 and 4. So that's where you'll be able to find me for Game 3, Blue Jackets and Lightning. Series tied at 1 game apiece. Somebody is going to go into the lead. Will it be the Lightning retaking a series lead, or will it be the Blue Jackets leading in the series for the first time? Can't wait to find out. Thanks once again to Jean-Luc Grand-Pierre for joining me today, and thanks to you as always. This has been CBJin30 presented by Telhio Credit Union. Until tomorrow night, when the Blue Jackets and Lightning play Game 3, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.